From day one, we are told who we should be, how to live, and what's acceptable. Before we even have a chance to discover ourselves, our society has already drawn those lines for us. But what happens when those lines are keeping us from knowing and embracing who we truly are? Welcome to Unbox Yourself with Samantha Fox, a podcast about unpacking and unlearning everything that's kept you from living as your true self. Through honest conversations about your internal emotional landscape, sexuality, coming out later in life, relationships, and the journey to self-acceptance, we break free from the boxes we never chose. Hello, and welcome to Unbox Yourself with Samantha Fox. Today, I am joined by a dear friend and also a fellow clinician named Sogol. She has been on the podcast before where we talked about coming out later in life and having children. Today, we have a beautiful conversation about coming out and how coming out is really like coming into yourself. Sogol shares her journey, asks some great questions, and has beautiful reflections that leads us into just a wonderfully rich, unfolding conversation about what it's like to be a woman in today's world and to come into your sexuality later in life. I hope you enjoy the episode. Thanks so much for being here. Hello, my dear friend Sogol. So happy to have you on the podcast today. Welcome.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, oh gosh, we have so many exciting topics to talk about. We'll have to do more than one episode to cover them all. But the one that I think we landed on today is about coming out. You're a late bloomer like me. And you came out back in 2017. And as you were sharing with me, when you came out, the first 2 years, you were in a space of coming out to yourself. And then after that, starting in 2019, you started to come out to the world. And I want to hear a little bit more about this time where you were realizing you were in a marriage, in a straight marriage, and realizing that you were having these feelings of same-sex attraction and slowly coming out to yourself, which I like to call you were coming in to yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. And what I'm really specifically interested in your process, because I hear this from so many women that are in that space where they're starting to come into their realization and they start really focusing on having an experience and needing to have an experience with a woman in order for them to really almost like believe and stop self-doubting that they're having these feelings. So I'm curious from you if that was a part of your process, and if not, why? Like what was there instead that had you not doubting and feeling like, well, first you need to be in a full relationship to really know.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I like that term, coming in to myself instead of coming out. And I think that's an important piece. For me, particularly, I think I was very connected to my own inner self. I came out to myself. For me, was more like I'm more connected to my whole self. I'm connected more to my anger, to my fear, to my sadness, to my sensuality. And I think sensuality or sexuality, we tend to think of that something outside of us. So I felt like more whole that way when the last piece for me was sexuality. And you and I know the reason, like mostly the, compulsory normativity piece, being for myself, being the firstborn, the good girl of the family, all of that played a role. But I think internally, I had enough wisdom, or there was a voice to confirm that, oh boy, you are so lesbian. There is no going back.
You are so gay.
You are so gay. And what do we do now? It was a good freak out. It was such a good relief. It was so complex, but the first feeling was half of my anxious mood evaporated. I was no longer that anxious little girl. When I an internal conflict, I resent it. I'm like, ah, that's what I wanted to be on the outside, but this is what was happening on the inside. And I fully accepted it. And I had this aha moment. Um, in addition to many bodily sensations around certain people, not that many, but, felt sense, feeling really sensual and sexual and wanting to like take care of myself in a sensual way without being with anybody, just being around attractive women or, like that. It's an energy, right? It's an energy. Sometimes it's not as explicit, but it depends on the person. But for me, I knew that. And then because it was so new, I needed to check that with my therapist. And I think we should be very lucky when we're struggling with these issues that we're not dealing with a therapist who's lacking capacity in these areas, which was unfortunately my experience. I mean, she helped me with many different things, but this was not her place, or maybe she had some internalized homophobia, who knows? A lovely person, but she was really blind to this part of me. And I said that to her, and maybe she was trained that way. I said, I kind of feel that what I feel around women is more than just me admiring them. And I'm sensing things more sensually and sexually. And the energy shifts in me. It's such a lively energy. I've rarely experienced that, and I want it. I want more of it. And I'm not with anybody, I'm just all of a sudden feeling that. Um, and of course, there were people I admired, but I was not in a relationship with them. So she said, okay, you're married now and you need to get on a dating app and you need to make sure that you're certain about this, because once the toothpaste is out, you can put it back in. And as she said that, I'm thinking, yeah, I can. I'm trying to put it back in my mind. And I was offended by that. She said, you need to try. It didn't feel well. It didn't sit well with me. But thankfully, I had enough ego resources or inner peace or wisdom to
Trust.
rely on trust. And I was like, that's no longer helpful. Like, she is no longer helpful. And I need a different therapist. Maybe I need a lesbian therapist. And I found a lesbian. I contacted a colleague of mine. I'm like, I need to see someone in the community because who doesn't know me gets complicated, and introduce someone to me, a lesbian therapist. And I go to her and I said, I don't know, I'm really struggling. I don't know if I'm gay, but I have these thoughts. And the first thing she says was, is that why you picked a lesbian therapist? It was the best mirroring ever. Oh, so what? What? Lesbian? Repeat after me. Right. So, I didn't have the experience. I felt it inside. And then working with her kind of solidified that you are y- who you are and you get to choose that. Even her, she didn't give me a label. She said, whether you land on lesbian or bi, she didn't say straight. That was smooth.
Yes.
You are who you are and you'll figure that out. Are you ready to date? That was her next question. I said, oh my gosh, no. No, I don't want to put myself out there. This is too scary. I don't want to do it. I'm married. And then all these thoughts, I'm like, well, what's going to happen to my daughter? What's going to happen to him? So it's complex experience. But for me to know that I'm gay, I didn't have a person outside of me to try the advice that was given. Go out and try. What are we trying? I mean, we can try in our mind. That works,
Yeah. Yeah. There's always fantasizing,
right?
which so many of the women that
Yeah.
contact me share that they have lots of fantasies even while they're having sexual intimacy with their male partners, fantasizing that they're with a woman. Right? So these are signs that this is what you're desiring and you know that you you can trust that is real. That is coming from you. And so right. So it's not
I mean, we can comment on the person's experiences outside of their sexual orientation or sexuality, how comfortable they are with their whole self, right? Like how comfortable they are with their inner world in terms of
Yes.
their feelings, needs, desires. And there's often, I don't know, talk about how gay people are highly traumatized. Is
Mhm.
that true? Or is it because the community's smaller, you see more of that? But,
Yeah. I mean, I do think that it is a more traumatized population.
why wouldn't it be? Right?
Right.
There's
Right.
not enough support on the outside.
Right, and also because of compulsory heterosexuality, which creates homophobia, which creates internalized homophobia, they have been discriminated against and stigmatized even if they haven't experienced that on a personal level. Like, if they're lucky enough to have never experienced that on a personal level, it still exists in a societal level. So, when you know from the time you're really, really young and you have to go through all those years of middle school and high school where people are calling each other names and whatnot. And you're hearing, everyone make fun of this girl and call her a dyke or call her a lessie or whatever and kind of laughing about her. And you know that you have those feelings. There are parts of you that will really try to shut that down or be very critical of you or find other ways to not feel the discomfort like addiction.
Exactly.
Right. So, like, there are so many reasons why people who grew up in the community have really suffered
Yeah.
because of compulsory heterosexuality. I mean, that construct is what has created their suffering.
And so,
And so, trauma is certainly more abundant, I think, in the LGBTQ community. And yeah, I hear what you're saying. You didn't grow up in that. And it sounds like you were already in therapy. So when you came into this conscious awareness about your sexuality, you were already in a place where you were trusting your emotions, whatever they were. If you were angry, if you were sad, like you were able to give weight to what you were feeling instead of try to numb it out somehow or ignore it or, pretend that you were fine or whatnot, or just continue people pleasing. And so part of that might be why it was, I don't know, like easier to contend with these feelings when they came up and to not try to numb them out.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's another set of feelings to have loving feelings, to have desire, to have, you talk about this in your podcast all the time. I hear you say that. Like it's not
Yeah.
something out there, it's part of our integrated self.
Yes.
And because of all the cultural and societal stuff, it gets a little overlooked. And then if you don't have enough mirroring on the outside, you don't have enough validation from the community, from the society, then you're more vulnerable to that. Some personalities are more vulnerable to that. Some people are more pleasers, or like I was a firstborn, I was a good kid. So I was more vulnerable to being the good kid and do the things that my parents liked and do what's normal and what's common.
And that's why you think it took you till later.
For sure, yes. And I wasn't safe enough to say, this is who I am within myself. And once I kind of built that safety within, and again, sexuality was part of it. It was more like across the board with all
Yes.
a whole range of feelings, right?
Yes.
Madness
Yes.
in particular. Like I struggled with being mad. I never felt mad. I grew up with a lovely father who had temper issues and he felt it all for me. So I didn't have to feel that. And I was disconnected from madness, healthy madness. So it took me a while and then I'm fully connected to it.
Rage, real rage.
Real rage. Um,
Yeah. Yes. I hear this though. I do hear this from others that once they step into doing the work and going to therapy, that as they're starting to get more and more connected to themselves, that's when these feelings come to the
yeah,
surface.
for sure.
And yeah, and as women, like there's so many reasons why we're not able to connect to that based on the ways that society has told us that we're supposed to be and expected to be if we want to be worthy and valuable from the beginning of time. Like this is the air we're breathing. So to get into doing that work with yourself is really important. Like for those of you out there that are listening and you know you're having these feelings, but you're really doubting them and kind of like gaslighting yourself and feeling like, well, yeah, like I have these feelings, but how do I really know? Or another one I hear is, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? Like I don't even,
Self-doubt.
yes, you are having these feelings. You have had these feelings like for some clients, you've had these feelings from the beginning of time. And now you're scared that you might be wrong. I mean, wow. Like, that's so sad, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. So for you, so you went from this place of really coming into this as a part of being in your whole being and your whole self. You came into yourself. It sounds a little bit like, I don't know, like like a spiritual awakening of some kind to like
Yeah.
really have this energy moving through you.
And see that sorry, that was it was the energy that drove me. And, I think you and I were talking about how, people try to rationalize and negotiate and try to figure this out logically. It doesn't work. And I did that. It didn't work until there was a force within me, which was the drive and the desire to be with a woman that was much stronger than all of this logical stuff. And I kind of
Yes.
let that guide me. I mean, didn't land well, but I don't regret it. I am who I am today because of that experience.
Yeah. When you say it didn't land well, what does that mean?
I didn't have the bestest experience with the first woman, but it was an experience.
Mhm.
Or maybe we all have all these ideals of how our
It's
relationship
supposed to go.
is supposed to go. And see, that's another box
Mhm.
way of thinking about that. Part of, I think I told you earlier, being queer, it's so beautiful because in a way, and I think we have a privilege in a way that we have lived the straight life and then we live as a queer person now more authentically to see that, wow, if we want, we have that autonomy and flexibility and freedom to choose. And we don't have to go by all the boxed ways of safety and security, which creates a lot of fear, but hopefully you learn to regulate a little bit of that. So for me, the driver was the joy. It was no longer logic because if I had to sit down and justify and do the pros and cons, of course the hetero life would have won, but that's not what I wanted.
Mhm.
And with the experiences with women, I learned I want this person. I want that. There's such a thing as wanting someone.
I hear
And
like
real desire, and then it's magical when it's reciprocated. It's very agonizing when it's not, but
but it's so interesting, right? Because it's such a flip of like what you just said is such a flip of what we learn and what we really experience. Certainly for me, which is that it's all about being desired. Like that was what I learned was
same.
um I am a powerful woman. I believe this. I am a very powerful woman
Yes.
because I am desired by
Yes.
men, like really desired. Like it is clear they are desiring me. And the more they desired me, the more power I.
Yes.
And I also had no desire. There, it
Were
was
you aware of it at the time that you had no desire? You were not.
no, no, I that didn't even come in for me because there was no value
Yeah.
to having desire. I realized I didn't have desire. So very exciting to feel so powerful. But then once the conquer was done and I got them, then I had no interest anymore. And so that was very interesting to me back then. Like, why am I not interested? Why am I not desiring them? Why, like I'm good. Like I could be done now.
Yes.
There's no interest. It's like flat,
Yes.
right? So what you're saying is that you came into yourself and like this feeling of desire. and wanting, and the energy of that was so enlivening and just so amazing. Like, what a great feeling.
Yes. So I wanted more of that.
Yeah, which like, yes,
Yeah.
like, fuck yes, for
Yeah.
everybody. Who doesn't want that? But I think as women, because we conflate male attention and their desire somehow gets conflated with our desire, or our desire just doesn't even play in. It's like once we have their attraction and desire, I don't know, like women don't even really think about whether they have desire. They just feel so amazing that they have this from a man.
Exactly.
So this coming in is coming into your desire,
Yes.
which is so life-giving.
And as you're saying this, I'm reflecting on, see, it wasn't the desire for women that came first for me. I just realized I experienced a great degree of rage after a while in my marriage. See, the rage I never experienced early on is showing up in my marriage as a result of not having my needs met for sensuality, emotional connection, or being mirrored as who I am on the outside, being seen for who I am. So that created a lot of rage. So I was in touch with the rage first.
Yeah,
And then I think after that, we talk about, as in therapy work, we talk about how when you're in touch with the unpleasant feelings, the more you go deeper with that, then the more you can experience the more pleasant feelings. So I'm just thinking that now, like the rage I experienced, then the aftermath of that was it got me connected more to my desire.
I love
Just
that.
realized that. Yeah.
So cool. What a great discovery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great awareness. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And if people are, I don't know, sitting there thinking, should I leave? Should I stay? Because I think you talked about that, right? I don't think it's a problem to it's not a logical problem to solve with logic. It's experiential. First of all, internally, you have to embody that. You have to feel that inside. And once you experience it to the degree that, I don't know, most of us do, you're like, don't want to go back to that. Thank
Right.
you very much.
And I want to say, for people out there listening,
Yeah.
that there are so many ways that that can look.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, because not everybody has the ability to separate, especially
Yes.
if you have children. Not
Yes.
everybody can afford multiple homes where kids go back and forth if you have children, so there are many ways to go about this, coming into yourself and realizing, that you don't want to go back to what you were in. And that comes into maybe a little bit like relationship anarchy, where you look at your, relationship that you have been in. If you're someone who isn't ready to make a move toward like an actual divorce, and you look at like what has been sustaining about this relationship, like what is good about this relationship. And there, in my bi life community, I have a number of women who are somewhere in this in between space.
Yes.
So they are married, they are still living together, but they have arrangements going on where each of them are getting their needs met, some needs from each other, some needs outside the relationship. So there is, yeah, there's a whole spectrum here of
Yes.
how this can happen. I'm
Totally.
at a strong extreme. Like mine was an extreme. Mine was like, I'm going to blow up my entire life. And I have no idea where any of the pieces are going to fall, and really lived in terror for a number of years because of the way I did it. You did it
Really
different.
hard. I did it differently just because I didn't have the stamina to do that. And I had the openness from my ex-husband to accept me and help me and support me. So I don't know if I could have done it without that support. And I appreciate that you're bringing in the nuances because, like myself, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm gay. And that now I have to go blow up my life. And that's, again, a very boxed way of thinking about that. And, you're doing this wonderful work now for people to hear this and to validate that you don't have to do it that way. There are many different ways. This is the
Yeah.
beauty of being queer. We
Yeah.
don't have a blueprint. We'll figure it out on our own. Everyone
Yes,
figures out their own blueprint as you go, but, it can be scary.
it is
That's
scary.
why you're doing all these wonderful work and setting examples and bringing people together to share their experiences that way.
And I like to kind of offer the for now perspective,
Yeah,
right? It's you said finding your way. You don't have a blueprint, you're finding your way as you go. And I like to say for now,
for now. Yeah.
meaning like today or this week. But like next week, you'll figure out next week, because that's sometimes how it needs to go. Many things we can't do that way, like you're getting
Sure.
your PhD. So, right, you know what the goal is at the end and you know what that whole process is going to look
There's
like, maybe feel like, but you know what it's going to look like. Most things in life don't really look like that.
no, there's a timeline with the PhD. You lose your
Right,
scholarship and you have to finish it within a certain time.
right.
But it's important to give yourself choice if you can. You're right, sometimes it's hard. And, figuring out, like, I like what you mentioned, there are different ways to figure out different needs within the
Hmm.
same setting.
Hmm.
Uh, and I think that takes a lot of emotional maturity, to be frank.
Yes.
It takes a lot of work. And we had a therapist, we had a couples therapist who helped us through that. So that was
Hmm.
helpful.
Yeah.
So we don't go to black and white.
Yes.
Either divorce and sell the house and like move the kid around. And I couldn't do it. Like it was just a lot of pressure. Yeah, and then just meeting different people in the community who were still married, but they made arrangements with emotional maturity of both parties to make things work. And then,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, and that emotional maturity is going to pay off when you start having other relationships. I think the work is just beneficial, no matter what. Like if
yes,
this is you doing your work, you have a partner who is not interested in any part of this, they just want it to be over and they just want out and you just want out. That's also fair. Like there is nothing wrong with that.
so
Right, but there are people who have the ability to stay connected and deep friendships where they can, sustain more time together. So, and then you'll see, like for now, this is what it is, and then you'll see what happens. So yeah, so I'm curious for you. I know you said your first relationship with a woman was difficult. And prior to that relationship, you were in a straight marriage. So you went straight marriage to having this discovery, but still being in the marriage to having a relationship with a woman.
yes,
And that was difficult and did not end up working out. And I'm just wondering anywhere along that timeline, if you had the other really common fear that I hear from women, which is,
made a mistake.
what if I end up alone?
What if I end up alone? I think I'm very okay with being alone. So that didn't cross my mind. So I was kind of fantasizing at that point. I'm like, can these people leave me alone? Like all of them? They go to Mars.
It would be to be alone. Yeah.
It was more like, did I lose my stable safety security life for this?
This
Is
meaning what?
this being with a woman? So I started my brain started to generalize. I started telling myself stories of if this is what it means to be with a woman, I don't want to be with anybody. I didn't say I want to go back to men. I didn't say I
Yes.
want to go back to the ex-husband, no matter how safe and secure he was. I said, I don't want to go back to a man. I don't want to go back. He was a great person, a great friend, husband, but just he was straight and I was gay. One tiny problem. I had thought of, oh boy, this is harder. And maybe I had lacked education or exposure to the intensity of relationship with women in general. And
Yes.
I didn't have that experience. Maybe that experience was something I learned, not the
Mhm.
sexuality piece to get like, well, it solidified it for sure. Like I had this internal realization and then I had this external validation or mirroring, which was like
Mhm.
made me feel more whole, which confirmed more solidly in a way. But then when things got really tough in that relationship and, different personalities, we had different needs, we were very different. And I was not familiar with my own intensity when it comes to being with a woman. Like, we both like to talk, we both like to share, and we both are emotionally intelligent. And you need to kind of pace that. I'm learning as I move forward. It's like, sometimes we need to take a break. And I don't know, it's very different. Like, you go and I listen and you go. We kind of like, we can't do this all the time. It's exhausting in a
Yes.
way. It's exciting, but it's also exhausting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very common, by the way, for those of you that have not entered into relationship with a woman as of yet, is this intensity of emotion. When something does go sideways, the intensity of needing to be heard and wanting to share your side and wanting to like talk it through and wanting to talk it through again and wanting to talk it through again. Whereas, a lot with men, I mean, this is what I hear and also was my experience. It's just like, I'm done talking about that. I don't want to hear about this anymore. Like, why are we still talking about this? I said I was sorry or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
It
Let's
was
move
kind
on.
of like, right, move on. Like, you already said that. I already heard this. With women, it just goes on.
Yeah. Yeah. And partly, I mean, I don't want to get too scientific. We know oxytocin.
Yes.
We get two people, love hormones, we go at it. We get attached too quickly. We share too quickly. I mean, quicker maybe than straight couples because there's
Well,
a
in a
lot,
way,
a lot of
yes,
exchange. So it's,
yes. And it's kind of like it's a little bit of like a false safety, honestly, like very early.
such a false safety. I love that. Yes. And until the honeymoon phase is kind of over and you're left with your own original wounds that you haven't touched. And
Right.
then, depending on the person's or yourself's capacity to want to look within and take ownership for it, then there can be progress, right? There can be more intimacy or compassionate love,
Or
but
not.
or not. Or you decide that, okay, well, we'll go separate ways and this is the best this can offer.
Right. And that, I think what you just said is it's like the stuff of the fear of so many women that I speak to because like, why, when I have a partner, I've got a male partner, we've built a life, his family is my family is his family, we have children, we've done all these things together, we grew up together, right? Why would I get into this intense relationship that feels really good because all the hormones are flowing and it feels amazing? Why would I do that when there's a chance that, like, at the end of the honeymoon period, we could be like, yeah, no, you know, why would I take that chance?
Yeah. I had asked that, but I can tell you today, I know it's such a lived experience that you can't, I don't know, describe that for anybody, and everyone has their own journey, as you say. You just have to be willing to. And if you're not willing to, then okay, that's fine. Maybe you're not ready, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But once you have the lived experience, even though it wasn't the most ideal, I have zero regrets.
So afterwards, when you were alone,
Yeah.
because this is again, alone is a big trigger word for people. So
Yes.
when you were alone and the relationship ended, I know you love being alone, but did you feel like
Oh,
that then?
when that ended, it was really hard because then I thought, "Oh my gosh, I'm never gonna find anyone that I'm gonna love.
Mm,
How am I gonna find a person?" And then all different kinds of self-doubt about, like, maybe I should have said this, maybe I should have tried harder, maybe I should have, I don't know, done this from the get-go and things like that. But I had thought all of that the first years in particular. And then, I had some really good friends, and including yourself, saying, like, give yourself some time. This is a process. Until I worked that out, that grief had to really get processed. And once I fully processed that grief, and it took a long time. You talk about 2.5 years. Mine took 2 years and 8 months, and a little more than 2.5. But once that was done, then my energy shifted, and I felt like My gosh. I'm so happy for that experience. I want to be single. Now it's time to be a single lesbian. I'm enjoying that, but not forever. Again, I had thoughts about that, but then, I started to kind of like doing the things I like more. And I mean, I was still very busy with work and my daughter and doing the things I like. Now it's kind of getting to me, and I'm like, okay, maybe once this PhD is done, like I really want to explore and,
Start dating.
start dating for sure. Cause that part of me, which is the adult need, it's like showing up and it's kind of like saying hello. And it's like, don't ignore me because I'm like having these dreams and having these thoughts and feeling excited for it. It's not from a place of, I want to be with a woman. I'm glad I lived that and it's done and over with. It could have been any woman at the time. So I'm so glad for that work and the growth. I experienced being single and single lesbian because forever I was in a relationship with a man and then jumped to a relationship with a woman and then experienced this period of 3 years of being, I mean, I dated one or two women and that didn't work out. Uh, and then I thought to myself, maybe I'm too picky. You have all those thoughts. Maybe there aren't enough people or,
Where are the single lesbians that have done their work?
yeah. And that has become big because I also reflected on that. Like, I want to be like yourself. That piece is important to me, that I'm able to talk about things outside of us, but also to be able to talk about our dynamic between us, things that are good and not so good, right? You have to done the work or have self-awareness and not get too defensive. I mean, you can get defensive, but not too defensive. So you block me out, right? Yeah, that's where I am now. So,
And it's I mean, and it is challenging.
mhm,
I mean, I believe it's challenging to
yeah,
find somebody who has done the work. I think there are definitely people who are willing to do the work.
yes,
And so, I mean, whenever two people come together, I mean, really, regardless of gender, I mean, when you're straight, I guess you can more easily fall into like heteronormativity and just sort of follow the roles. And maybe you feel like you don't really need to do that much work because you're just doing the roles. I don't know. There doesn't
life.
need, what was that?
It's an easier life. There's a script.
It's yes, there's a script and you follow it and you just go along and you kind of know and, you're with your girlfriends and they're all complaining about their husbands not listening to them and everybody has the same complaint, but now they're going on vacation and, it's just like a whole different universe.
On cruises and kitchen renovations and next week.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a real different reality, and then trying to find a woman that's, like, done her work and is open and emotionally available and, also takes care of herself and takes care of her life and, I mean, it's like women, we were talking earlier about how, lesbians or in general, like gay people have been discriminated against. Women have been discriminated against from the beginning of time, from the moment we're born, we're discriminated against. So women haven't had a lot of opportunity to empower themselves and do the work and really get to know themselves and know how to support themselves and take care of themselves because they're told they're going to find a man that's going to do all that for them. And that's what they go out and set out to do. A lot of women. Yeah. So it does affect the pool.
Yeah,
Right. And that's real.
for sure. And I can
Yeah.
imagine for a woman who has lived like that and then realizes that they're gay with no necessarily no backbone in terms of career, like any type of earning for themselves, that would be a huge challenge, right?
That was me. I mean, that was me. I was traditional stay-at-home mom, no income, 3 kids under 5, and I had no earning potential really of anything. I mean, I had stopped working when I was, like, 26. So at 32, I realized I was gay, and I had no income and no earning potential. It was
You're such a role model though for many that you went from that to where you are.
yeah, and it was a brutal journey that's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
at all. And I would still do it. I would still go
Yes.
back and do it again. I
Yes.
mean, of course, I would change the earlier years so that I had more already going for me, and I wouldn't have stopped working at 26. I would have kept working.
Can I ask you what drove you to that kind of hardship? It wasn't the hardship, I suppose. Like working really hard to make a living and leaving that comfortable life you had.
Mhm. What was hard about that?
No, what was worth your while in terms of keep going?
I mean, freedom.
Yeah.
Like, it's freedom. Like, I
Yeah.
am free.
Yeah.
Nobody can tell me anything. Nothing. Nobody has any say. I can wear what I want. I can shave or not shave. I can, yeah, like I can just do my life however I want to do it, and nobody has any say about anything, which is so freeing.
And you paid the price.
Pay the price. Yes. Yes, I definitely paid the price to get here. And I want to, free as many more women as I possibly can while I'm here in this
Amazing.
community.
So valuable what you do.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing and just having these, curiosity conversations where we just lean into the journey and, different people's experiences and sharing our own. I think it is just so valuable for those that are here and just really struggling.
Yeah.
This is not an easy journey. It is
Very
not.
complex.
It's so complex. There's no one right path. No one can tell you exactly what you should do. This is it all has to come from you. And when we've been programmed to have like really nothing come from us other than keeping everybody else happy,
Yeah.
I like, that's how we've been programmed. It is really hard
Yep.
to switch the script into really doing you and living from you and living what is going to fulfill you and whatnot. So yes, it is quite a journey.
For sure. And thank you for having me. And thank you for being open to my curiosity. I mean, part of this insight came from what you shared with me earlier. So thanks for having me in your podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'll do it again.
Awesome. I'd be happy to.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
You're most welcome.
Thank you for spending this time with me on Unbox Yourself with Samantha Fox. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps more folks find these conversations. If you're ready to unbox from something that's keeping you stuck, I would love to support you. You can find the application to the show at unboxyoursexuality.com. Let's stay connected. Find me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Lesbian Curiosity Coach. Give me a follow and join the conversation. Remember, we only have this one time through. Why not unbox yourself and let your true self shine in all its beautiful glory?